whereas shadows are dark and quite blocky, whereas shadows are, highlights are light and wispy. So using wispier strokes looks as a whole better, I find. And again, this I'll put a link in the description, so if you look under my monitor, you'll see links to the highlights and shadows, and I will put the final image up as well. I've jumped again, and you just got a glimpse of the final image. Congratulations. Yeah, so we'll just go back to here. I'm really bad at this. I'll probably end up making another video getting really annoyed with this one. Okay, next you can see me using my brush to go in and do the highlights myself, so you can see actually where I put them. So you can see I don't do much hatching, I just go back in squiggly lines. Really soft and airy when you're thinking about doing highlights. Everything's soft, everything nice, just looking pretty, which is how I think of it. Though I did do a bit of hatching there. Occasionally you have to, but it's really finding your own style, I find. Now you're going to see me use the smudge tool on 20% just to smudge my highlights and shadows. It just makes it less sharp. Sometimes you don't have to do this and sometimes you do. It completely varies. Side note, occasionally it's really nice. You can obviously duplicate or lower the opacity on these levels according to how it looks on your horse. Carry on. Just naming my layers there. Naming your layers is actually really helpful. Although I'm only working with very minimal layers here, it is very useful. That's where I accidentally deleted it. Now I've created a duplicate just in case I go wrong. This is where I colour it to look the same. Now there, what I did was I went Image, Adjust, and clicked on Saturation / Hues. And that allows me to drag down my saturation, and that effectively takes away all colour in the image. I didn't take it all the way to 0, just because I like a little bit the original tones. But that's really nice for a basis for colouring. This is my personal way of doing it. It doesn't always look great. You've just got to play around with Photoshop or your own personal software, whatever you've got. Now, so I take a sample of the image that I was sent, and using colour, I coloured it in, which is quite nice to do. To colour in, easily and simply, use your layer lock, which is down here above your layers. And that basically allows you to lock layer and you can scribble and it will stay in the lines for you, which is a really nice thing to do. Now next what I did was I took a sample of the leg colour they wanted and started colouring the legs, which we find very quickly didn't work. So I tried it a couple of times in different ways, and sometimes it can look great, but it really didn't. So I went back, deleted that, and then what I did was I created a new layer. Just let me fiddle about this for a minute. And eventually, once I realised this idea is really bad, I go in and create a new layer and just lower the opacity and just have a separate layer with the darker colour on top, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm colouring in where I want it and seeing, yeah, that's nice, okay, I don't like that. I use my eraser just to get the soft tones and then just delete the outside to get the same shading as the original drawing. Now I'm just going to repeat that on the legs, and I do go really high up. Next bit I'm going to do is do the, I can't think of the right name, the stripes basically, primitive markings, and it does take me a little while, and I do a couple of stars, and they're not my favourite thing to draw, and I'm really bad at them, so I really apologise for how they turned out, because they're not even as good as how you've done them, to be honest, Equine, because I'm just poor at doing them. The original ones ended up, they end up too spiky, or they don't end up far enough apart. So while I'm neatening this up, I'm going to apologise for that. So you'll see my different attempts. So I start using just an eraser, just to make an eraser. I'm not American. A rubber, just to. It's because it's an E on the keyboard. Just to try and make it a bit faded. As you can see, I tried this and then realised it's not the light colours that come in. I zoomed out and realised how poor it looked, so I had to colour it back in. I did a lot of this, which got really irritating for me. But, and then I tried again. I think I in total tried 3 or 4 times. This time I was like, yeah, this is looking better. This is not looking right. No, okay, let's just get rid of that. Let's try again. It took me a while to do this. This is where I started getting really irritated with myself and Photoshop itself. So I tried once more, I think, with the rubbing out method, and then I eventually flip and get annoyed with it, so I decided to draw them in instead. See, that looked way too neat for me. I was like, damn, this isn't working. What is going on? It looked quite cool, but it didn't look very realistic. So I went back in, used my paint tool, and I drew them in instead. I think I did draw them a couple of times as well. I'm really bad at this, and I'm so sorry. I can't give any hints and tips on drawing primitive markings because I can't do it. So I rubbed out all of this and went in and drew it all in. As you can see here, this forearm is actually really bulgy. I feel bad for that. I should probably go back and edit that a bit, but I'm not going to because I'm going to leave the image as it is in the video. Again, they're really bad. I really don't like them, but they're what you wanted, and again, they're not the worst in the world, they're just not my favourite. Layer naming, do it. So they're my dark markings, and then I'm probably going to do light markings next, I think. This is done simply by I took the tone of the horse and put it almost at white, because you don't want white because you cannot highlight white. So whites on horses, whites on eyes, whites on teeth, and aren't white. They're almost white. And you won't notice, trust me. So here you can just see me painting in where the markings should be. And you'll see me forget.